Doesn't every ad agency want profitable ads? You would think so. But what we found in working with tons of ad agencies is that they spend so much time focusing on cost per lead, they fail to look at what's happening further down the funnel. And this is something that we just can't stand for, partially because of the people we are, but mostly because of what got us here today. Hi, I'm Greta, founder of Bringing Simplicity.
And I'm Judy, the CEO of Bringing Simplicity. And today we are going to walk you through exactly how Bringing Simplicity came to be the marketing agency that it is today and what makes us different.
We laugh. I mean, our stories of what got us here today are kind of long and winding. But I do feel like so much of who we are and what we do was shaped by the roles that we held prior to ultimately coming together and making Bringing Simplicity what it is today. So I would love for people to hear, Judy, because I know you don't toot your horn enough. I obviously get to hear your story quite often when we're talking to potential clients, but the world as a whole doesn't really know, how did Judy Smith come to be somebody who is the CEO of an ad agency?
That wasn't the plan. That definitely was not little Judy's plan to come here and be the CEO of a marketing agency, especially if you knew where my background was growing up and all of that. But I don't think we're going to get that deep today, Greta.
I mean, we can decide if we want to take it back to Judy on the block.
Yeah,
that's up to you.
We'll see. Sometimes she comes out, sometimes she doesn't. But it is interesting because a lot of what we're going to share today, Greta, too, is one of the reasons why it made us so hard for so long for us to niche down into only doing marketing, because we really do want to help our clients in all areas of the business. And it's hard not to get involved in those areas that we have experience in that we're going to share with you today. So to touch on mine, if I were to go back, I'm just going to go back to high school, my first job. I knew, and this might sound crazy to you, but if you know me, you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So the first job I chose was in retail, and it was for a large retailer where I worked. I knew before even starting this job, because I knew the people, I loved the experience walking in. I'm like, oh, this is a place I feel like I could work at. I really enjoyed the service that I got every time I went to it. I loved the clothes, obviously, and I love fashion. And so that was one of the reasons why. But the main reason was because I could control. If you know me, I like control. I could control what I was making. So there was a base pay plus commission. And I'm like, what? I get to control how much I make? And back then, when did I start working? 2004-ish, but I started looking, this probably also doesn't surprise you guys. I started thinking about my job in 2000 to figure out where I was going to work, right? This was the whole plan. I had to pros and cons of all these retail places. And so the fact that I could control that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can make that money. And by the way, it wasn't like the job was down the street. It was 25 minutes from my house. So I drove in Indiana, and yes, during winters, 25 minutes to work and back home. That meant that I had to make the money for gas.
Right.
But also, to net, right?
What kind of car were you driving?
I will. This surprised you guys, maybe not. But it was a Chrysler Sebring convertible.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And so
in Indiana,
in the winter, okay, driving it is so cold. Do not recommend. I do not recommend. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you live in Indiana, don't buy this car. It was not great for the winters. But I love that it was convertible. Yeah, obviously. So obviously I always want to live in warm places and be tan, right? Driving around my convertible. But so I loved that component because I could have control. One, I know that it was how they treated you, right? But I didn't feel like they were selling to me.
You felt like they were serving you. You felt like they were taking care of you.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, I really want to make people feel as good as I feel. And if I can make more money on top of that and control that, then the better. So that's where my sales experience started. And I actually also learned a lot about leadership during that time too, because it was because it was commission based, they wanted you to be successful. And so they gave you so much training in order to be successful. That was a point where you're like, oh, I was lucky, like at the right place. I chose the right job for my first job to make that happen.
Makes sense.
So that was just my first part of working in sales. But after that, it grew into a profession that I love, which I'm gonna get into a little later on in this video.
Yeah. And for me, I definitely had the retail jobs. I worked at the Gap. I had restaurant jobs. I worked at Applebee's. Like I had all of those jobs. But if I think about the pivotal starting point for me and what kind of has translated to bringing simplicity, I went to school to be a social worker. So I actually have my bachelor's degree in social work. And then I was working at a substance abuse clinic when the governor of Illinois decided to cut 100% of funding for services benefiting women and children. And so I actually decided to kind of flip up my master's. I was in a 5-year program and I focused on leadership and development. So that's like a lot of the grant writing, fundraising, marketing for nonprofits. And I pretty quickly realized that in order to make money as a nonprofit and in order to market it effectively, you had to get really good at storytelling, because that's a tough population, but it's a population people needed to care about. I saw them as people, and I knew that I had to translate that into a way that other people could see them the way that I saw them. And Judy and I talk a lot about how we're the yin and the yang. I feel like your like kind of jumping off point was the sales side of things. And for me, it was like the storytelling, marketing side of things.
So you might be thinking, okay, Judy, why are you going all the way back? But it's gonna make sense. Don't worry. I'm gonna wrap it up where it's gonna make sense on why I'm telling you my retail job story. But from that point in retail, obviously college happened. I decided to go to college. My whole thing was I was going to be an optometrist. So I have a chemistry degree and that was what I was going to do. But in college, I worked for an optometrist. By the way, that was also a commission-based job too. You got to make money, right? And so during that time, I thought, I'm very good at being like, okay, I'm going to go and test it out. If I try it out and it's not something that I like, great. I'm good with pivoting. I worked for an optometrist and I thought immediately no. Like immediately no, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, forever. So now what do? So I go back to my retail job in high school because it's what I knew. Being a retail chain, it also was like a small company feel. And so all of the same people were there, was under the same district manager actually. And so I was easily able to hop back in, not expecting anything to come about. And that quickly grew into, hey, you're really good at this sales and leadership thing. And they started training me on leadership and said, hey, if you want to travel with us, you can. So I was traveling with the VP of sales, all of the district, regional leaders, and eventually ended up in Arizona, where they moved me to manage a store. And so during that time, I was very fulfilled, and it was because of my sales and leadership experience. Like that company there taught me so much about how to take ownership of a business and how to run a business profitably. I guess that's where Profit First came from when I went back.
Oh yeah, because they probably focused on profit first.
Exactly. So as a manager, you got paid a % of the profit of your store. And so that's when I started thinking about business as a whole, and not only how does this work out for me, but how do I make sure and what we call growth, because here at Bringing Simplicity, we're marketing growth partners with you. And that's the first time all three hit for me: sales, operations, and leadership. So like the operational part of how to scale a business came from my retail background. I was recruiting people, I was interviewing them, I was hiring them, I was training them, I was promoting them into managers, right, for other stores. That's where I saw what a business could look like long term. And so when we came together, a lot of that just came naturally because of the 5+ years in retail that I had at that point.
Yeah. So I love that like your story is basically you went back to your roots and you amplified the things that you had learned in high school, only amplified then when you decided to go back, and you kind of built upon it. Like it wasn't like you were starting from scratch. It's all kind of a natural progression. even with the blip of the working in the optometry office, you were still technically like
I was still doing
honing
sales.
your skills in sales and like commission based.
Exactly.
And for me, I saw that play out in that I was very successful at raising funds for the nonprofit I worked with. And it wasn't something that had been expected of me or that I had even gone into it thinking like, I'm going to fundraise for nonprofits. But I started joining more groups. A lot of other nonprofits were like, how are you getting people to donate money? Like, we're all struggling in like causes people should want to donate to. Not that there's like shoulds and shouldn't. It's easier to get dollars for a cute puppy face. I said it. Like,
right.
I mean, people want to give money to a cute puppy face. I ended up kind of building off the experience I had at the nonprofit, going around the US and part of Europe, helping nonprofits learn to fundraise more effectively. And where that stretched me is when I was working in the substance abuse clinic, I knew firsthand the stories of the people who we were serving because they were my clients. And so to tell their stories felt very natural. Like it was literally me telling my story. I had to quickly pivot that to how do I capture your story when I've only talked to you for 30 minutes and I need to like extract out of you, like what is the message people need to hear in order to want to donate? Like, how do we get to the point of telling the story so that then the sales can happen? I think for me, one of the things I can see is where it kind of seems like a windy path. It's funny as we're sitting here talking today, I'm like, it actually is fairly linear once we kind of zoom out. That took me to a place where I was kind of ready to not be traveling all the time and I wanted to be able to work from home. My husband's active duty military. I knew that like there wasn't going to be stability in terms of like going into an office every day, things like that. And so I'm like, how do I take this skill of like learning how to capture people's stories and tell them from a marketing standpoint? How do I get the business to function as a whole working from my computer at home? And that is actually where Bringing Simplicity was born. I started working with a coach, Rebecca Lima, who's amazing. She told me that I was able to capture her message and her story so quickly, it like kind of floored her. It was just because that's what I had spent so long is like listening to little bits and pieces. And so I got involved with her and worked with a whole bunch of coaches. And at that point I did do marketing, but it was a lot of just like operations as well. Your story only goes as far as you take it. And so if you don't have the systems in place to be distributing that story stays silent ultimately.
For those of you who are listening to our stories, don't worry, we're going to get to the point. Okay.
We got to tell all the parts.
But we've got to tell all the parts because you're not going to really get it as it comes together.
Yeah.
I think, and for those of you who right now are thinking about their career and being like, hey, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know the position that I want. I don't know the department, the niche that I want to nail down. Hopefully this inspires you because you're like, how does this person from retail and from a nonprofit background come together and build a marketing agency for online coaches? Well, we're about to tell you. And that's, I think, a lot of what makes us so unique in how we've been able to grow so many companies together too, is because we don't count you out based on your background or what you've done in the past. It really is about, hey, what potential do you have?
Yes.
And so, which goes into my next part of, I was really burnt out in retail. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm probably some of you who have worked in retail or service industries do things and you're like, nobody's going to think that my background is valuable. No one's going to take me seriously. Nobody's going to think that these skills are valuable. Well, lucky for me, again, I applied for a position because I was like so burnt out with retail. I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And so what I did was I went and applied for jobs like everybody does. Indeed, all these places. Well, I found a job on Craigslist. Okay. And you're like, wait a minute, Judy. Yes, this was like 10 years ago. Okay. Early like 2010s.
That's like 15 years ago.
Okay.
Just so
okay. Well,
in case you want to feel extra old.
No. Whatever. Okay. So, okay, maybe it was mid then. We're going to go with mid. A job on Craigslist, and it was for an executive assistant to a company, like an online education company. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Okay. The only thing I knew was John Maxwell, like anything online education. Like that's all I knew. And obviously all the books from college. Right. So I go to the interview and I tell my family I'm going because it's a job on Craigslist and you should tell your family that you're going somewhere because you don't know, you could be murdered, right?
You could.
So I told them my exact location. I was in Arizona at that point and they still lived in Indiana, as if they could do anything from Indiana. But if I went missing and they didn't hear from me, good thing I told them, because the interview was 4 hours long. Because I interviewed with 4 different people. And this is startup life. If you guys have ever interviewed with startups, you know that you never know what you're gonna expect.
Never.
So you go in and you're just like, I like you. They just pass me on to the next person. Then finally I interview with the owner, and he actually knows about Buckle, and he knows that they invest so much in their sales, operations, leadership. He's been treated extremely well every time he's gone into Buckle. And so he said, I don't know what I'm gonna use you for or need you for, but I do know that the skills that they've taught you there are going to be super helpful here at my company. And it was a startup that was already doing like $7 million in annual revenue. And I was like, oh, wow. He actually sees my value. And obviously I interview very well. I had done hundreds of interviews up until that point before meeting him. And now I've done thousands of team member interviews. That was kind of the turning point, because that's when I started in the online education space. It's for a coach that a lot of people know, and I won't say his name because I just won't say his name. So you guys can guess down below in the comments what you think the name is. And if you want to message me, I will tell you what his name is if you want to. I get hired on there, and because it's a startup, right? When you're starting off as an executive assistant, eventually you get thrown into everything. Events, operations, affiliate, marketing. That was the first time I ever heard what a squeeze page was. I didn't know what that was. We were using,
I know they don't call it squeeze pages
they don't
anymore.
call that anymore. You're not squeezing
For those
anything.
of you watching who are like, what the heck is a squeeze page?
You should chat GPT it. See
Yeah,
what
you
it
should.
says. You should see. I really wonder what it's going to say.
I know,
I'm
I
going
do
to do
too.
that and see what it says. I want to do that and see what it says. So that's the first time I learned what a funnel was, any of that stuff, right? All of these online marketing events. That was even the first time I started diving in. Like, we had watched things about Tony Robbins at Buckle, but like that was really where it's like, no, like we like he's like, you know, everything in the online education space. You know what I mean? So
I mean,
that's
he
how,
shaped so much.
exactly. So like that's how we would start like every, you know, team meeting, right? Is we would watch a Tony Robbins video. Like that's where it really got ingrained in me. But that's all to say, I was super grateful that he took a chance on my experience, and that it's not even just about the chances that you're given, but it's what you do with those opportunities. And the fact that I was so curious, which is one of our values at Bringing Simplicity, where I was just so obsessively curious about what this business was, because I saw, and it's the reason why we work with, I would say 90% of our clients are coaches, is because I saw so many lives change within months of buying his program. And so that made me want to work even harder. So if you're watching this, find something that makes you want to ask 100 different questions about it. And that's what we do here in a marketing. Like, we still till this day have 100 questions about every new client that comes to us. And even clients who have been with us for years, we develop 100 new questions every month, every week. And that's what has allowed us to grow so many companies to 7 figures, is because we continuously challenge ourselves and remain obsessively curious. I was lucky enough to then take on all of the operations, hiring, and all the things at that company. And within 2 years, we were at 14 million, so doubled in revenue, and we're on the Inc. 5000 list twice.
While Judy was off building empires, I mean, teams and operations, I had really focused my efforts on solopreneurs. So one of the things that I learned working at a nonprofit, which if any of you out there have worked at a nonprofit, I almost think nonprofits are worse than startups. I'm not going to lie, because they're like slightly more established, like in that like everybody just does everything. And there's no order to the chaos. It's like a free for all every day in terms of like who's doing what,
I mean,
and how it's getting done.
Some
it's probably why I
startups
thrive.
run like nonprofits, but then when I come in,
They don't.
they turn into startups.
I had learned in the nonprofit world if you were presented with a problem, the answer wasn't to find the person who was the solution, it was to become the solution. And I think that Rebecca saw that in me, because ultimately I was there to be a growth partner and a strategist for the members in her program. But ultimately, I kind of became the go-to for pretty much any question that there might be. So I learned a lot of the tech elements. I learned all of the CRM systems that were out there. I made it my mission that if I was asked a question, I would have a solid answer. And some of that was very technical things, but I also took all of the trainings. I was fortunate that Rebecca was Tony Robbins trained, so I got that ingrained in me constantly. And obviously she also shared tons of Tony Robbins stuff because she was a huge fan. Anything that I could go to that was free, because I wasn't making a ton of money at the time, was for me. I will absorb as much as possible. I knew that I was going to be super successful in the online space. I just had to be prepped and ready for when the right moment hit. And little did I know, that moment was right around the corner. I like to say you were an answered prayer. I don't know if that's weird for our founder story. I had started working for a new client, helping with their growth strategy, and it was pretty apparent right out of the gate that two things that they desperately needed was somebody who could manage people and somebody who really loved creating predictable day-to-day routines and checklists, neither of which I wanted to touch with a 10-foot pole. We went on a hunt online, and apparently Judy likes to put herself out there in online spaces for jobs, because it wasn't Craigslist, but it was Upwork, where we found the one and only Judy Smith. And obviously once you meet her, I mean, it's clear from her story as well, you're like, duh, I'm hiring her. Your background spoke for itself, but I think you are magic anywhere that you work. I don't want to say you're not, but I think when the two of us came together, the way that we work off of each other and like the questions I ask you, the questions you ask me, it was pretty apparent right out the gate at that job that there was something there. Mm-hmm. And basically we took that company from 20K months to 100K months in like 4 months.
Yeah.
It was like I had a year projection and we hit it in 4 months.
And I think I come on to companies really easily, and I think, oh, that's what you're doing in revenue? I bet we can get here really fast.
When you came onto that position, one of the things that I had put a decent amount of time, energy, and attention to was the onboarding process. And I remember you saying, I've been through a lot of onboardings at companies and they underwhelm me, but I'm pretty impressed with your guys's. Was that a lie?
No, it wasn't a lie. I actually was extremely impressed. It was like 4 days of onboarding, I think. If you're like, why is she laughing? If you saw my training and onboarding, you would know why I'm laughing, because mine is very robust. But at that point, I had done so many, created so many new...
The fact that we had one probably impressed you.
Exactly. And the fact that because you guys had said how many people you had on the team, how small it was, I wouldn't expect that you would even have one, because who were you onboarding if I'm like team member number 4? You know what I mean? Like,
I think you were number 5.
Yeah, or, you know, whatever like the count was, right? It was so small.
Yeah, it was super small.
It was... Wait, what? And it was...
And I was like number 3. So technically 1 and 2 onboarded themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So what was that? But it was like a PowerPoint with all of the links and all of, you know, so I had, you know, obviously I always have critiques, but it wasn't that robust. It was very good. Good memory. I do remember. It was a PowerPoint and all the things. I even remember.
I always wondered later if you BS'd us just to like stroke our egos.
No. Now you should know that by now, that I don't compliment you unless I mean it.
I think we both were like, holy crap, we just built a business to $1 million business in under like 4 months together. And it ended up like, it would have been sustainable. We were like, is this a fluke or is this the magic of Judy and Greta together?
And so we were like, let's do it again. Can we do it again?
Kind of like how I prayed for you. Then we were like, can we do this again? Then you were on a call and it was like,
Yeah, exactly. And so while we did not even think about it, like we weren't considering taking on new clients, it just so happened that I was on a coaching call. So if you are not a part of masterminds, coaching programs, I suggest that you get into them. I was talking about our success with our current client that we just mentioned, how we grew within 4 months. A client on there said, hey, I need your help. And I was like, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Again, we get on a call with him and he's blown away, of course, by what we both can do, because Greta loves the tech automation. You heard that I did not say anything about me building any landing pages, any automations. I said we worked in Infusionsoft, which is now Keep, and all of that stuff, but I do not enjoy working in all of those things. And then I had the sales operations leadership part that he needed. And immediately, once he learned our backgrounds, he said, yes, absolutely. Like, I need you both to help him with his business. And Greta, so what did we do? Because you're the data person.
His first 6-figure month must have been within 6 months.
Yeah, I think within 6 months. And mind you, this client had tried to sell his online coaching program
for like 3 years.
Yeah, and only did $60,000 in 3 years. And so imagine hitting your first 6-figure month in 6 months after working with us, and you're like, hey, this is pretty cool.
For us, it's really easy to now be able to connect those dots of like, he hit his first 6-figure month. We went to over $1 million that first year. This past year, we went to just over 3 million. And now, you know, we're projected to probably do somewhere between 5 and 6 million this year. And it's easy for us to be like, oh, it's all linear. But just to connect the dots for you guys, we have seen every angle of the business. So we know where things can break down, whether it's breaking down in the sales side of things, whether it's breaking down in the storytelling side, the marketing, your tech's not working. We literally like can look at things from all angles. So we're not siloed to like, we're an expert in this, and so this is your solution.
Exactly. And what's great is that we ask 100 questions to each other. So, okay, Greta, I want to do this to promote this client's mastermind coaching program. What then needs to happen on the tech side to make that happen? Mm-hmm. You easily knew and would be able to map out how long that takes. So the fact that not only can we solve what needs to happen and that timeline, we can execute it that much quicker. Because sometimes it's the decision. Like right now, for many of you watching this, you're probably considering what marketing agency are you going to go with. By the time you've made that decision, we've already ran like 10 ads for 10 different clients.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that we can make those decisions and give you the data to back it up very quickly allows people the confidence to move forward in their businesses, right? And to make those investments. Because a lot of people watching are like, hey, I only have 2 to 3 people on my team. Where do I spend the money first? Who do I hire first? What do I put in motion first? Which platform? Is Go High Level for me? Is HubSpot for me? What am I supposed to use? Based on the type of business you have, Go High Level may be the answer, and we are huge advocates of Go High Level, but it also may not be the answer for you.
And we've tried so many other ones.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. And I think the other piece we haven't highlighted a ton is we do like to joke that we're the yin to the yang. So I'm the marketing, she's the sales. I am definitely the more like, we need to analyze, slow down, figure out if this is the right next step. And Judy is very much the like, we're going to just try the next step and we're going to evaluate it after each other. So we have to kind of balance each other out on that. I think you are much more direct and like with your feedback. And sometimes our clients come to me when they need like a little bit of like, you're doing a really good job. These are like hard things that you're doing, right? Yeah. And that like, you're laughing, but that is true. Like,
yeah. It is.
I'm like more of like the comforter. True. Yeah.
But if you want to know if that's going to convert or not, I'm going to tell you. A lot of our clients, by the way, who come to us, and you might be this person, but they're extremely successful.
Yeah.
And they're very intelligent, all of our clients. Because we have each other, we can lean on when we are like, hey, pause, or do push forward with that feedback. Yeah. Because that's a part where we want to tell you and we want to respect you for your intelligence as a client of ours. But at the same time, I don't want to do you a disservice and say, hey, if you tweaked this, even though your webinar has converted at the rate that it has, or above industry standard, we're still going to give you that feedback. And whether you choose to take it or not is honestly not going to hurt us, but we can't not give you that feedback. And we do it in a way that is good for them, meaning in a way that they like to process it, right?
Yes.
So an example of one of our clients most recently, after I gave her webinar feedback, she was like, what I paid for you guys doing on my ads was worth it. Like was worth just the 5 tips that you gave me to adjust my webinar. That made me feel really good, obviously. But also she's extremely intelligent, and she's like a copywriter and a sales conversion writer herself. So me even giving that feedback was, hey, here's some feedback. You can decide to do it or not do it, but I have to tell you that if this was my webinar and I was delivering this, this is how I would. So we treat your business
as if it was ours.
As if it's our own, which is rare to find.
That's where we always talk about when we think about bringing simplicity, our number one goal in life is to create profitable ads.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for people to be like, isn't every ad agency all about profitable ads? Everybody wants to make money because obviously if they're not making money for your ads, you're probably going to move on to the next ad agency. But I don't know that anybody obsesses about it the way that we do, because we've seen all angles of the business and how it impacts the business when the business isn't making money. And so like for us, it has like personal motivations, professional motivations, the impact that we know you're making on the people who work for you, the communities you serve, all of that. I feel like that sets us apart too. And that all came from our stories and what we saw as we were kind of growing and developing into who we are today.
When we were considering bringing Simplicity to a marketing only agency, we thought, okay, if we can come up with values that mean the most to us, what would they be? And can we commit to these values with serving just this type of niche, one, and within marketing? Can we basically feel whole together as a CEO and founder, right? Can we sleep at night and feel really good about the work that we've done? And those three values are, one, having unquestionable integrity, two, being obsessively curious, and three, being generously committed to each and every one of our clients' work. And for us, that's doing everything 100 out of 10, going to like 0 to empty and wanting to do it all over again the very next day. So if you are searching for a marketing agency and those are important values to you, then definitely book a call with us, because we'd love to learn more about you and your business and see if we're also the right fit and we agree, because for us, it needs to be mutually agreeable in both sides. If you decide to book a call with us, then we can't wait to connect with you.